Buckle up, folks. This podcast is all about diving into the good, the bad, and the ugly of our bodily, spiritual, and mental experiences. If you are not prepared to challenge your assumptions, laugh at yourself, laugh at me, or maybe even shed a tear or two, then you might want to look elsewhere. But if you're ready to get real, get honest, and get a little weird, then welcome to the Just Chrissy podcast. I'm your host, Chrissy McCammon. Welcome back, friends. This is Chrissy, the host of Just Chrissy and the owner of Rooted in Wellness. I am so excited that you're still here following along, and I pray that you have your notebook and your pen and you're taking notes. Several times throughout this podcast, I've mentioned alkalinity and acidity in the body, and it's super important. And so I thought today we would really hone in on what that is and what that means. And I hope I can get it all in within 15 minutes. I'm going to try because I'd like to keep it in one podcast. So just bear with me. And again, these podcasts, I'm creating them with the thought that there might be someone who's brand new, and there might be someone who's has a couple years in and has some more knowledge and understanding. So if there's words you don't understand or things that I say that you're like, what is she talking about? Just take in the information, what you can, and make notes on the things that apply to you. Apply what you can out of that. And then the person who maybe has been in it a couple years might have a little bit more knowledge, and there hopefully will be information for them to apply also. My goal is to get information to people so that they can just further their wellness journey. Hopefully easily. It's literally a matter of discipline, right? Disciplining ourselves, applying things into our lives, making those changes. And Mel Robbins, one time, she said she had a couple years back, she did a month on YouTube. And one of the things that she said is, when you are a child, until you turn 18, your parents tell you what to do. But then you turn 18 and all of a sudden you get to make the decisions. And when that happens, we have to learn to self-discipline, right? Because nobody's coming to save us. No one's coming to save you. So you have to make the choice to discipline yourself and start applying things. And some people are 100%ers and they'll apply a lot right away. And some people just need to do one step at a time. And so the purpose of the podcast is to allow you the information and then for you to be able to apply what you can. This one may sound a little bit complicated at times. Just please take in what you can and then stick with it till the end, because I'm going to give you some really practical information to help you with this. So fungus, so the body has a pH balance, and you have to keep a balance. That pH scale is from 1 to 14, and where you want your body to be is in around 7. If you go below 7, you're going more and more and more acidic. The closer to 1 you get, the more acidic you are. If you go above 7, the closer to 14 you get, the more alkaline you are. So fungus thrives in an acidic environment. Acid and alkaline environments are expressed on a scale that they call pH. This pH stands for potential hydrogen. The pH scale, it's like a thermometer showing increases and decreases in the acid and alkaline content of body fluids. So you can buy these pH strips, and you can check your saliva, or you can check your urine to see where that pH is. Just as a correct pH balance is vital in the swimming pool, for those of you who have swimming pools or are familiar, you recognize that you have to check the pH of that water. It's also really important for a hydroponic gardener like my husband Stan. He grows plants in the winter. That's how we have good lettuce in the wintertime. And he grows it in water. And he has to keep that pH at a certain place. It is also important to the human body. So if the water in the swimming pool becomes acidic, the pipes corrode. And if the water becomes too alkaline, algae grows on the pipes. The pH balance is the regulatory authority that controls most of your cellular processes. So you have all these cells in your body, and for them to be able to function properly, this has to be in a range that's healthy, which we're going to talk about. Our body pH controls the speed of our body's biochemical reactions, individual reactions. It does this by controlling the speed of enzymatic activity as well as that of the electricity that moves through our body. Okay, the first time I heard that our body had electricity, I had to take a moment. I'm like, what? I did not know this. One of the doctors I follow said that they learned this when they were in med school. What happens when you have a heart attack? They get those paddles out, right? That have electricity, and they're like, stand back, and they put the paddles on there, and then they shoot electricity into you, and they shock your heart back into action, hopefully. That is electricity. Your entire body has frequency going through it. Your cells all communicate with each other. If something interferes with that frequency, you're going to have issues. So there's electricity happening in your body, and your pH balance controls the flow of that electricity. The blood pH is constantly being balanced by the lungs and the kidneys. The normal pH of your blood is 7.35 to 7.45. Now, that's interesting because different things have different pH, but the blood, like your stomach, it's 2 point something. It's very acidic. But the blood has to be between that 7.35 and 7.45, right in that range. And so your body is constantly, your lungs and kidneys are constantly working to make sure that that balance stays correct. Because if you even have a slight variation, it has such a dramatic effect on the body's biochemical reactions. So for instance, if your blood pH gets to 7.22, you'll go into a coma and die of acidosis. And if you get the blood pH of 8, you go into a coma and you can die of alkalosis. Although the blood pH is kept at a constant balance, the cellular pH can change. So your blood is always being kept at a balance, but your cellular pH can be different, like we just talked about. And then you can check that on those the urine and saliva strips. You can check the cellular pH there. The most acidic substance is sulfuric acid. I'm going to take my time reading this because the first time I saw this, it was a little bit confusing for me. So the most acidic substance is sulfuric acid. On a scale of speed, it travels at the speed of light. The most alkaline mineral is calcium. And we talked about calcium, how it's the king of the vitamins, and how it's the first one into the cell before all the other vitamins go in. The calcium on the scale of speed doesn't even move. So sulfuric acid is the fastest. It's at the speed of light. And then calcium is the slowest. It doesn't even move. So the lungs and the kidneys are constantly monitoring the acid and alkaline balance. But in extreme and constant acidic being between 1 and 7, the conditions, the body reverts to pulling calcium out of the bones, calcium phosphates out of the bones in a last resort effort to alkalinize the acid condition. Now, I want to talk this through with you just for a second. If your body remains in an acidic, and most people's is, condition, the body, because it's always fighting to survive, I've said this in previous podcasts. Your body's always fighting to survive. It's always fighting for your life. It's what we're doing to it. If it's in an acidic condition, it has to pull calcium out of your bones in a last resort effort to alkalinize the acidic condition. Because you know why? It's saying, I need to keep Chrissy alive. And if that means that her bones need to be weak, then that's what we're going to have to do. Because it's more important that she stays alive. This process explains why many people today suffer from weak bones or osteoporosis. Now, okay, I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose, treat, or prescribe anything. But a lot of times what the doctors will do is they'll just prescribe you calcium. Well, that's an issue because you can take calcium and it cannot be absorbed into the bone. And that's why when we did the podcast on D3, we talked about the K2 and how important it was. So as you can see, all of these minerals, the trace minerals being the very first podcast we talked about, all these minerals being in your body are super important. And that's why instead of just taking one, you should take the humic acid, which is a balance of trace minerals, and your body can get out of it what it needs. Or also just adding Celtic salt and Baja salt to your diet because it carries so many of the trace minerals in it. So when bacteria and yeast and fungus are active in the human body because of cell damage or massive infiltration, okay, so you have, remember we talked about like when an apple gets a spot on it and that begins to like deteriorate, and then the next thing you know, you got that slimy, fungusy stuff, and by the time the apple's done, it turns into this mold, right? Well, this happens in the body also. So when bacteria, yeast, and fungus are active in the human body because of cell damage or massive infiltration, which is, the toxins, the bad food, all the things that we're doing, the waste from that bacteria, yeast, and fungus, the waste or what's left over, creates a very acidic condition. Not only do these microforms create an acidic condition in the body, but they also thrive and they multiply in an acidic body. So maintaining this correct pH in the body is an important part of preventing the bacteria, the yeast, and the fungus from multiplying. So when people are getting yeast infections and bacteria infections and we want to take a pill and cure that, that's not the answer. You've got to get the balance into your body. So there's a doctor named Dr. Tullio Simon Cinci, Simoncini, and he is experiencing great success with sodium bicarbonate, which by the way is just baking soda, and it's highly alkaline. So its presence is found in the lining of the stomach to neutralize any acid that might penetrate that mucus lining. By the way, I don't know if we talked about this, but the stomach has a really thick mucus lining because it is so acidic. And this mucus lining protects the acid from burning through your body. So the pancreas is another organ that naturally produces sodium bicarbonate or baking soda. And this release happens in response to the acidic state of the food leaving the stomach and entering the duodenum. In both cases, baking soda or the sodium bicarbonate is used primarily as an alkalinizer. Oh my goodness, I can't say the word. To alkaline your body. Oh my goodness. So he found that the sodium bicarbonate, it alkalizes whatever it touches. This poses a problem in inaccessible areas of the body though. So it's like someone would say, oh, well, I'll just put some baking soda in my water, which by the way, I do sometimes. Like if I get a heartburn, putting a little bit of baking soda in my water and drinking that is very helpful. But it doesn't infiltrate all the areas. There's some areas that are inaccessible, like the liver, the brain, the pancreas, and the kidneys. So the answer to this dilemma, like what do? You have to get foods that are highly alkaline. And those foods would be green foods. So, wow, we are at 15 minutes already. Sorry, guys. So if you live in the country, just get a garden and grow some foods. But if you don't have access to these foods, then there are green juices that you can do. I like to do, I'll put them in the description. You can do powdered greens, and I do love Nutritional Frontiers Proline greens. And also, I like Equilife's Daily Fruit and Vegetable Blend because there's a wide variety. We talked about the microbes and growing. There's a wide variety. So I'm talking about this again. I will put links to them in the description. Because if you go into when you go into my store, if you set up an account in my store to purchase these things, let me know because I'll go in and give you a 10% discount off of everything. So the important thing to remember, though, like we talked yesterday, is alternating the greens, getting a bunch of different kinds in there because your body does get used to the same things. And so alternating keeps the body reactive to the greens. So inside that cell wall, this is running over. I'm sorry, but I want to finish it today. Inside your body, or inside your cells, are these little furnaces, and they're called mitochondria. And you'll hear this over and over again as you grow in your journey. And this is where our food, it's a little furnace. It creates the energy. And so this is where the food has been broken down into a singular molecular structure called glucose. And it's burnt to produce energy. So you have a furnace, it's burning, it's producing energy. But what's left over is an ash. So it's the leftover from this energy being burnt. So you're cleaning out this wood stove. And it mixes with your body fluids. And that's what forms the pH. And it's either going to be acidic or it's going to be alkaline. And certain foods leave an acid ash while others are going to leave an alkaline ash. And it's mostly dependent on the mineral composition of your food. Again, here we are back at those trace minerals. They are so important. So alkaline forming foods or elements are calcium, potassium, magnesium, sodium, and iron, where the acid forming elements are sulfur, phosphorus, chlorine, iodine, and meat. Yes, meat can be acid forming. So if you're a meat eater, you need to be aware of this. So if your blood pH is 7.35 to 7.45, which it is, then it's recommended that you eat 80% alkaline forming foods and 20% acid forming foods. And this proportion will aid the body in maintaining the correct pH balance. It's pretty easy to maintain the correct pH balance in the body if you just do a couple things here. You have to eliminate and get rid of most of the cane and beet sugar in all forms, alcohol, caffeine drinks, caffeine foods, and tobacco. Ideally, meat and dairy products are best avoided or greatly reduced while increasing the consumptions of fruits and vegetables and other alkaline forming foods are increased. So this is where this moderation thing comes in. Like you can't have all of like the same foods. You need to have more fruits and vegetables and less of the other things. Also, sunshine, too little, too much can cause an acidic condition in the body, but you need sunshine. So if you can get out in the sun an hour a day, that helps. Water. Most people experience an acidic condition in their body because of dehydration. So approximately 2 to 3 liters of water is lost from the average sized human body every day. Too much sleep or too little sleep can create an acidic condition. Do you see how these podcasts are all coming together? It's like one whole thing. Your body is a whole thing. Stress creates an acidic environment in the body. So learn how to laugh and work at lowering that stress. And lower alcohol, caffeine in all forms, refined sugar, tobacco, drugs, chemicals, heavy metals, which we're going to be talking about these heavy metals and toxins here before too long, to get this balance in your body. And let me tell you, if you like soda, Coke say Coke. I just looked up Coke, but you can look up any, just pH of Pepsi, Coke, whatever. Coke is 2.5 to 2.7 on the pH scale. So when you drink a Coke, you're dropping the pH in your body. Coffee is 4.85 to 510 pH. Milk is 6.7 to 6.9. Guess what water is? Clean water is 7. Perfect, right where you need it to be. So if you like to have your cup of coffee in the morning, which I do, make sure that you drink water before and after. Make sure that you're drinking water throughout the day. Limit the sodas. Limit the sodas. And then make sure you get fresh air, because air contains oxygen, and oxygen is the most vital element needed for life. And the lungs inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide, which is the gas from the cell. So make sure you're getting fresh air, and then also reasonable exercise. Not because also exercise too little or too much can also create an acidic condition in the body. So all of this is in moderation, and doing things in all the areas, not just one area, but it's all the areas that help create this healthy condition in your body. Wow. I hope that you've learned a lot in this podcast. And if you have any questions, reach out. Again, the pH strips, you can buy them off of Amazon. And then I will put green powders that I like down in the description of this podcast. And if you let me know, if you don't have an account with me and you let me know that you set one up, I will go in there and give you the 10% off so you can save a little bit of money. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, high five, go out and apply.